Some of the key learnings were around the fact that unless a leader understands the functioning of their own mind, they cannot emotionally regulate themselves, they cannot genuinely express themselves, they will struggle to handle the uncertainties and the distractions and the extent of information that they need to work with. The alpha image, as you've mentioned a few times, is where the leaders are expected to have it all put together. The leaders are expected to know exactly what is the micro strategy that they need to adopt, but also know what is the big picture and therefore what exactly would be the way to respond to or manage the challenges of the outer vagaries of the world. It is true that the businesses have become extremely complex, unlike ever before, between the social media and now the AI and the wars going on and the political positioning. There is a whole lot happening. Now, psychological safety as a concept is the ability for each individual team member to feel confident and safe enough in the environment created within the team and the organization that they are able to do their best work. Soham, Parekh, 4 jobs at the same time, and I personally know in my circle a few people who are doing more than one jobs
Oh, okay.
because they are working from home. So it is a thing beyond Soham as well. But what comes to my mind when I look at this is the wasted potential.
Hello, Booknerds. Welcome to the Booknerds Podcast. And, all this month I have been reading a lot of books about leadership, but one book that truly stands out is this book called Leadership Unmasked by Marut Bhardwaj. And, this book shatters many myths which people have regarding leadership, that a leader has to be confident all the time, play this sort of alpha role all the time, be less empathetic, just worry about results. So, this book shatters those myths. There are, to be very precise, there are 30 myths that have been shattered here. And I was taken aback, to be honest, because I also thought that, leaders have to be very, to the point all the time. Of course, one has to be precise in their approach, but one has to be empathetic at the same time. So we talked about a lot of issues here on the podcast, and including how the book is backed by neuroscience. The book encourages empathy, taking the right calls at the same time, not being very lenient. So there has to be a very what do you call precise balance between all these factors. Uh, there were several examples from the corporate world that were discussed, like Sheryl Sandberg, how she, faced adversity and showed empathy, worked hard at the same time. Her book Option B was discussed a bit. We talked about Google and their work culture, how Project Aristotle at Google was a game changer, and many other things, including book recommendations by Marut Bhardwaj herself. So yeah, all these things were discussed. I would encourage you to watch the entire podcast because it could be a game-changing one for people who want to pursue leadership in any form. It could be at work, it could be perhaps at school in some way. It all starts there, right? And if you plan to go up the ladder, you need to read these kind of books, especially this one, to get better at your process of being a good leader. So yeah, for those of you who don't know about Marut, she's a very experienced corporate. She has worked in the corporate sector for a long time. She has wealth of experience. She has worked with potential project, and this issue of having empathy and work coexist in a very in harmony is very close to Marut's heart. So it is also depicted in how the book is written. So yeah, do watch the podcast, buy a copy from Amazon if you wish to, and do leave comments for the author or regarding the podcast on YouTube. This podcast will release on Booknerds YouTube. Subscribe if you want other podcasts as well. So yeah. Hello and welcome to the Booknerds Podcast. Like I told you earlier in the introduction, the author today is a magnificent one, and I'm not saying it because see, I read many books, too many books. In fact, I've been I've been accused by my family also that you are reading too much, but there comes a time when you get a book and it's a personal and a leadership journey together and a reader journey together. That's what this book kind of gave to me over the past, say, like week or so. Because this book, you can't read it like very fast because you have to just keep it with you if you are a leader in any capacity. It's called Leadership Unmasked. uh, I told you in the introduction as well. The author is, of course, Marut Bhardwaj. She's here with us on the podcast. I'm so happy to have you, Marut. And Reading the book is one thing, and this podcast has always been about to know more about, read between the lines and know more about the author, where he or she comes from, what are the learnings that kind of resulted in a particular book, or if it's fiction, then of course we try to delve into the mind a lot. But How are you doing before we start?
Doing very well, thank you. And I'm glad you asked that question because, when we are doing the trainings, we talk about this. How are you doing? And the answer is, I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm fine.
Yes.
And honestly, the question means nothing and the answers mean nothing most
Yeah.
of the time.
So
So,
how are
as
you
leaders,
really doing? How are you really doing? Yes.
that's a good one to ask. Yeah, the weather has been good in the NCR region over the
Yeah.
last 10 days, so improving, getting a little cooler. So
Yeah.
that's helping. The promotion of the book is keeping me busy primarily, and I'm halfway into the next one. So that's the
Yeah.
exciting part.
Yeah.
So I'm doing well, all put together. Thank you.
You had a recent launch in Bombay as well, and
Right.
would you
That's
like
right.
to tell us more about that a bit
Yeah,
before we
that was
kick
an
start?
amazing experience because this is more or less my debut book. I've done a curation earlier, but this is the first time I've written a book independently, and that was the first time that an event where I got to explain why and what about the book. So it was a wonderful experience. Also, it was made great by the fact that there were other authors, and it was great to see their journeys and what they are going through as authors, published authors. Also, it was amazing to sign books for folks, and
Oh yes.
that was a
It must be.
wonderful
It's
experience
a
to do
new
that.
experience, right? You generally, you don't sign. I don't even write on books, but that's a separate debate. But I'm saying that it must be exhilarating because that doesn't happen to everyone, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful, but more than exhilarating, it was humbling
Okay.
because it is so wonderful to see folks who are majorly accomplished themselves. For example, there was a principal, ex-principal, who had been in the education field for a long time, and she said, "Although I'm retired now, but I'm so keen to read the book because I have seen my young children become leaders and then." End up struggling with anxiety and burnout. And I would love to see if there is another way that they could be leading instead. So there are some great experiences hidden there.
Yeah. I think that is a different podcast because getting into the author's mind and what they're feeling, that always excites me because once you're done with the product, let's call it a product, it is. But that writing experience, and when you have to market it, it's two worlds, and it's quite like you said, it's humbling, and at the same time one is excited for the next book, so the author's mind is on the second book while they are kind of promoting the first one. That's a strange thing to do, but everybody is doing it. Cool. Okay, my first question was about the three themes that really struck me, and they are the basis, I feel, of the book, according to me. And empathy, neuroscience, and leadership. This is where the book is mostly kind of traversing and telling us about.
So, would you like to explain this to our readers? Because some of them may be new, because usually we don't associate neuroscience with leadership and, in general, because, you know, especially in India, leadership is all about the alpha.
Yeah.
So you have to be alpha to be a leader. Most of our leaders show that, alpha ness, if there's a word like that, and
Mm.
try to kind of exude this confidence and, super human like, nature in front of their team and in front of their shareholders and consumers. So how is this book kind of projecting and, changing this?
So I hear a few questions there, not just
Yeah.
one. First
Yeah.
of all, it is about the neuroscience,
Yeah.
and neuroscience is all about the mind of the leader. As a matter of fact, I have spent the last decade or so working with Potential Project, and our founder and managing director there had written a book called The Mind of the Leader. And in those 8-10 years, when I got a really close look at what the leaders are going through, some of the key learnings were around the fact that unless a leader understands the functioning of their own mind, they cannot emotionally regulate themselves, they cannot genuinely express themselves, they will struggle to handle the uncertainties and the distractions and the extent of information that they need to work with. And therefore, it is really critical for the leaders to understand the neuroscience, because that is the foundation of understanding their own mind. So that's about the neuroscience part. The other part is about emotions. So leadership is not just a rational act. This is a deeply emotional perspective that you need to develop as a leader. And the truth is that the brain is wired for connection. We have what is called mirror neurons, and as human beings we are wired to mirror what the other person is feeling, to understand what they are feeling, and then regulate their and your own emotions and feelings by understanding and then feeling or emoting with them. So, this is an integral human trait, which for the longest of time the leaders have just ignored. So, at a subconscious level, of course, it is happening because that's how we are wired, but we have not consciously explored or regulated this for maximum impact. So, this book helps us to understand those parts of our mind, our feelings, our emotions, which are completely human, but not being understood or valued enough in the process of leading others.
Wonderful. I had some questions lined up here, but something happened last night. I was in a team meeting, and we are building a tech product, and it's a remote team, so it gets tougher. I'm sure you know about it. It's one of the biggest challenges because, yeah. And starting a company in a small town city like Dehradun, it becomes
Hmm.
slightly tougher to find talent, and then you have to kind of l- look out. We never want to, but so there's a remote team, and this guy who has completed 2 years at our company, and at the end of the meeting, he's like, Rohan, I have completed 2 years in the company, and I've done pretty well, and you have been complimenting me throughout, but you didn't wish me on my work anniversary. I completed 2 years, and you didn't wish me at my second anniversary. So I was just, I didn't have any words, because why didn't I build up a mechanism where I get a notification? Did I not care for it, or I don't know what happened? I didn't have an answer. I had to make an excuse or something. I really wanted to appreciate him, but the timing was all, it's gone when the other person has mentioned it themselves. What do I say now? So, has have you encountered something like this, or what are the kind of systems that people can make in their companies, especially for startups? If you look at the new companies that are building culture, what do you suggest? Because people like us are floundering. mostly, and then learning on the go. But that's not a good strategy, right?
Hmm. No, that's a very valid point that you have brought out, and a great example, because this is exactly what is happening. And although it is critical in the startups or the small organizations that are actually much in a struggle mode compared to the larger ones, but they're equally relevant for the larger organizations as well, because they are growing in a very dynamic environment, and therefore the amount of pressure or the responsibilities that the leaders have become way higher, and therefore it becomes harder for them to find that space or that pause in which they connect as human beings. But coming back to your example of this wonderful guy who's doing well, it was his work anniversary, and you ended up missing that. It happens with the best of us. First of all, let's not beat ourselves up. The reason for this is because we are a part of the world where the pressures are very high, the uncertainties are very high. We are almost always on. Between the mobile and our laptops, there's never a time when our mind is just simply resting. We are always processing. uh, Information overload, of course, we all understand that, with Google, with Instagram, and all of these tools. We just have way too much information to process at any given point in time. And finally, because of all of this, and over the years, the way we've been multitasking and the way we have been functioning, we also are super distracted. So now, between the pressure that we feel, the extent of information that we need to deal with, and the distractions, it becomes very hard for us to be conscious about the way we connect and take care of the people that we are working with. So, unless we are able to create more space, unless we are able to understand the way our mind is functioning and consciously bring that calm and clarity, where we can make the choices in terms of bringing the best to our people, looking after their well being, being fully present for them, these kind of lapses are very likely to happen. And when they do happen, the best strategy is to be honest, transparent, and vulnerable. Yes, you are right. I forgot to wish you on this anniversary, although I really appreciate you being a part of the team. And let me take the opportunity today to double my praise to make up for what I missed out on.
Yeah,
So, something like that, can help, because your
yeah,
intention is good. As a
yeah,
human being,
yeah.
we want to forge the connection, but it is the rest of the world that makes it hard for us. And unless we are conscious, it is very likely that we will end up with these lapses.
So I hope he takes this section of the podcast and takes it as an apology. So it was not intended that way. Let's call it that. Okay. One of my favorite chapters in the book was with the example of Sheryl Sandberg and what she, went through her leadership, and it's a long journey. It's and a tumultuous one in between. Her book also is very good, option B, and the confidence that we have to exude as small business owners, corporate leaders. This is a pressure which is unsaid. I mean, no, most people don't notice it because whenever you encounter a leader in a podcast or in a public event or panel, they are always there to kind of project a very positive sort of alpha like image. And just this morning I was watching a YouTube video or something, and there's this golfer who won a major tournament, and he was admitting that, okay, I won it, but a couple of minutes later I realized what's the whole point. So that was something, and I would rather have my family and kind of do well with them. This is okay. I'll move on to the next sort of big event that I need to win, but I try to do my best. But what's the whole point? So it was very existential, and for me as well. So when it comes to this confidence, is it ingrained in them through a hierarchy, or how is this becoming forceful? Why do we have to always show that we are in control?
Let us start with Cheryl and her book, Option B. Um, we all have option A that we are living every day, planning for it, executing it, looking at it, measuring it, and then realigning ourselves according to our option A. And option B is where the failure or the lack of success in option A happens, right? The challenge is not about having the confidence to ensure plan A will always work perfectly. It is in what we do when the plan A collapses. So, when the plan A collapses, the alpha image, as you've mentioned a few times, is where the leaders are expected to have it all put together. The leaders are expected to know exactly what is the micro strategy that they need to adopt, but also know what is the big picture, and therefore what exactly would be the way to respond to or manage the challenges of the outer vagaries of the world. It is true that the businesses have become extremely complex, unlike ever before, between the social media and now the AI and the wars going on and the political positionings. There is a whole lot happening, and the complexities are becoming harder to manage on a day to day basis. So, just to take an example, Trump says 50% tariffs on India, and suddenly the market will completely shift. Whatever you had planned yesterday has become meaningless today. Let's not talk of such a big global example. Let's just talk of rains in Dehradun and the bridge collapsing.
Absolutely.
This itself is
Absolutely.
enough,
Absolutely.
right? A
Yeah.
hundred things will shift and change, and the leader now needs to plan all over again to find out
Mm,
how to tackle these
mm,
new norms or the new today that is now
mm,
facing them. So leaders don't necessarily have it all together. They cannot, because they can control what is happening within their arena, but there are a whole lot of things happening outside their control. So while they can have a circle of influence, there are many things that happen outside. And having the resilience to manage the failures or collapses, continue to learn from them, and having the wise optimism of understanding the reality for what it is, but at the same time having hope in the potential for the future, is critical for the leaders. Because if the leaders do not have that sense of hope for what comes next, then they are likely to impact their teams negatively as well. Then depression begins to set in. And we saw all of this happening during the COVID time in a very stark way. There were leaders who just refused to accept the reality for what it was and jumped right in and said, let's have grit, let's have perseverance, we have goals to achieve. With families dying, people really dropping around you, how can you have the mindset where you are going in with the grit? But there were leaders that intended to make that happen. And then there was this other lot of leaders who went numb in the scenario and wanted to believe that nothing was really happening. Oh, no, no, this is just a media gimmick. Nothing is really happening. They didn't care that thousands of people are dying because nobody was dying in their family. So, this is my reality, and then this is the reality that I want everybody to believe. So, leadership is really, really complex. You need to manage the work that you are doing, you need to have the big picture and be aligned to the goals of the organization. You need to have the micro picture. You need to know the emotional makeup of each and every team member that you have, and then you have to efficiently align all of these things for maximum impact. And then, not to mention everything that will make it all go wrong, and then you have to go back to your plan B. So, in these scenarios, your best bet is to be as human as you can and stop trying to wear those masks and project yourself as this or that. And alpha is really passe now. Today, it is about being the foundation,
yeah.
being the bottom on which the building will rest,
Mm.
being the support or the oyster in which each pearl will shine. So the sense of leadership is really shifting post COVID.
Crazy. I have no clue why I chose to leave my job and kickstart this. This is a lot. This is a lot. But yeah, it's also very challenging and beautiful and stressful at the same time. It's a very strange combination. Okay. uh, uh, yeah, there was this part in the book. I mean, when leaders exhibit, vulnerability, and organizations like Google, they have been doing very well. They are doing a great job at diversity, but they are challenged every day. World leaders and everybody is challenging them. Why are you becoming so woke? Why do you just why don't you go back to the dark ages? But so you have talked about Project Aristotle in the book as well. How the internal survey that Google has, and the concept of love at work. That chapter was incredible for me, to be honest. Congratulations! I was like, how did she come up with that? Because most people don't even pay attention to that or take it in the wrong way, especially when we have the astronomer fiasco recently. People take it in the wrong way, that what does love mean at work. So please tell us more about this project that Google runs, and are any other companies doing this? How are they doing that, and why they are doing it?
Yeah. So Google's Project Aristotle was to understand what is that one binding factor that defines the success of a particular team within the organization. And what they ended up concluding from those assessments was that psychological safety is the topmost factor that defines whether a team is successful or not. Now, psychological safety as a concept is the ability for each individual team member to feel confident and safe enough in the environment created within the team and the organization, that they are able to do their best work, they are able to innovate, experiment, fail, make errors, and yet be appreciated for the efforts that they are putting in rather than just the outcomes. So, at the core of it, that's what psychological safety is all about. The next question that the leaders needed to answer in Google was how to create that psychological safety. So what happens is that there is this surface hogwash that happens. Oh, we have this EAP system. We have counselors sitting in case you're feeling burnt out. You can talk to the counselor. We have cashew nuts and orange juice in case you would want to have nutritious food, and we will have tambola sessions from time to time, and etc. You know what I'm talking about. So while these things are all great and they are wonderful to have in an organization that makes you more comfortable, psychological safety, it goes way deeper than all of those frills. That's about the love that you feel in the organization between your team members. That is where the ability to go above and beyond comes. That is where you gain the ability to not just do what you're supposed to do, but you do that which will benefit the team. That is when trust develops. That is when each individual is able to every day appreciate how the sum is way larger than each individual. And therefore, they come together to gain way bigger success than they would as individual contributors to the team. So this is a very subtle but a strong, impactful cultural shift that comes from creating that psychological safety. And the onus of creating it is entirely on the leader. How much of vulnerability, openness, acceptance the leader will project to the team will define how comfortable they feel expressing their failures or lapses or errors, and then learning from them and moving forward. So that's what this whole concept of love and psychological safety. I'd like to share an example here. We were doing a leadership intensive in my organization one time, and it was a sort of a boring strategy presentation, and people were already tired from 3 days of intensive learning. So we wanted to figure out what is the best way to make it more interesting. And someone in the team came up with a fantastic idea. They built little phrases into the presentation on various slides. Each of those phrases was actually the beginning of a very well known song. So at the beginning of the presentation, they said, if you identify the phrase somewhere, just go ahead and sing. Now, people who were tired, exhausted, drained, and not paying much attention to what was happening were suddenly sitting straight, looking very carefully at absolutely everything on the slide, paying full attention to what was being said and shared. But at the same time, when they identified this little phrase, they broke into a song, and everybody laughed, and if the others knew the song, they joined, and suddenly you had two people really singing a duet. And it was beautiful the way everybody came together, the bonding it created, the focus that was improved, the learning that was much higher, and what we were doing was having fun and connecting with each other. At the end of this exercise, the number of smiles that you saw around the room was the micro moments that were creating the bonds and creating the love between the team. So these are all very subtle things, but
Yeah.
human things,
Yeah.
and you have a whole lot of learning to garner from your families, from the way you
Mm,
behave when you
mm,
suddenly break into a song and everybody sings
mm,
together, or
yeah.
little moments from which you are learning together, and
Mm,
all this is equally relevant in the workplace. And this whole effort to sanitize the workplace of
mm,
emotions has
mm.
been a huge problem for a long
Yeah.
time, which is why the
Absolutely.
burnout, anxiety, and so on. So that's what the concept of love is all about.
That's that's amazing. And an example which is not really directly relevant, but from the book world, and what used to happen, it has been happening for a while. I don't know if you have been visiting like book events or book launches for a long time. I'm sure in the corporate setup you would have. Perhaps these launches happen a lot, and the usual thing is that you have these launches and there is a set format. Like there will be five, four, five people on the panel. There would be a formal introduction, and then there will be a slight conversation, and then there is a reader community, or perhaps people who are known to the author, or I don't know. If it's in a company, then the employees. This is the format, general format that has been happening for ages at IIC and all those places. So we,
Yeah.
back in the day, we came up with a format where authors get 7 minutes to talk about their work and pitch about their work, and that's it. You have to stick to the clock, and there's a reader community there who are purely readers who will be scoring you. Okay, so this was very polarizing, and it was
Mm.
entertaining at the same time. It was like a gamification sort of thing of the
Yeah.
format. And one or two authors were like, what the hell do you think of yourself? You can't do this to us. We are not going to compete. I said, it's not about the competition. It's about presenting it in a very entertaining format, so that people at least take interest in the book. People
Yeah.
get bored of long conversations. People want some gamification and interest. So yeah, an example which just came to my mind. But I'm happy that this is happening in corporate, that people are thinking out of the box and trying to change the status quo and kind of be innovative. Okay, this uh, this purpose versus passion debate which has cropped up since, I think it was last month, right? I mean, Soham Parekh issue, and the internet blew up. He was working at n number of companies together. He explained in a later podcast that he had to do it because of his finance issues, but
Yeah.
to be honest, I mean, whatever. I don't know if he was being honest about it, but whatever. He got away with it. And this sense of, work and culture, and how there are freelancers, and there people are working for different companies now at the same time, moonlighting. And this is like moonlighting pro max now. So,
Yeah.
what is your opinion on this? Why is this happening? Do companies need to change their, do they need to shift their mentality towards this? Who is in the right, who is in the wrong? Would love to know from you.
Yeah, Soham Parekh, four jobs at the same time, and I personally know in my circle a few people who are doing more than one jobs
Oh, okay.
because they are working from home. So it is a thing beyond Soham as well. But what comes to my mind when I look at this is the wasted potential. If Soham can do justice to 4 jobs and for a long time not let the leaders really realize that he is not quite available all the time, it just goes to show what percentage of people's potential are they actually working in an organization. When you do a single job, you could actually, if somebody can do 4 times the job, what is the potential that an organization is typically wasting, right? So it is about the environment, it is about what is expected out of an individual at the workplace. What does the leader believe this individual's potential is? And therefore, what is the expectation that the organization has from this individual? Apparently, he or she can do 2 times, 3 times, 4 times as much. If the environment is right, if the motivation is right, talent today is multi passionate. They want to quickly earn a lot of money, they want to do some great work, they also want to have hobbies, they want to do some work stuff, they want to be spiritual too. So it's not like the old times, you join an organization, you want to retire from there, your life is all about appeasing the bosses and getting your salary at the end of the month or your pension. So the expectations of our folks today are non-linear. They are multi-passionate, and the founders have to shift from control to co-creation. Now, that is why an organization like Google is as successful as it is, and as omnipresent in a large part of what the future might look like. The reason for that is that they co create with their team. They create the psychological safety for people to experiment, to do more than what their KRA defines. So, while it is great to have KRAs because they will define the output, it is equally important to create that open space where a person can think, experiment, try out, and know that it is perfectly okay to fail and then try out something else. So, this is the reason why it is important for the leaders to design a system where this is going to be the mainstay, but at the same time, not lose the alignment with the organizational goals. And I think this can be summed up by saying that while passion is personal, purpose is collective. So, as an organization, you come together in a team with a collective purpose, and use your collective intelligence infused with the spark of passion. That is when the results can be seen.
You know, you're so right. I've noticed that Google has the products that Google builds fail so often. They have been
Mm,
building the messaging app for a long time, since the past 10 years. They have failed at least 5 to 7 times, according to me, because I have used all of those iterations. But that, I think so, is because they give the space to fail. Otherwise,
yes.
we would only experience perfect products. So you're so right that there needs to be space for failure. About like we talked about the amount of work people can do when they are motivated, it's incredible. I think so,
Mm,
because in your book as well, you talk about deep work, you talk about leaders zooming in and zooming out, which was
yeah.
again easier said than done. Something which I wanted to speak to you about, because how does one kind of, it's like being a Gemini, you know, you are two persons at the same time. And what do you say about that? And have you experienced it with some employees and leaders, the deep work strategy?
So, toggling between zooming in and zooming out is a key trait in some of the best leaders that we know. Uh, it is all about mental agility. When you are looking at the large picture, when you are looking at, let us say, the organizational goal, the strategy that you will adopt, and the market conditions, the shifting realities, the political scenarios, and so on, you are zooming out and looking at the big picture at that time, right? But if you stay there, you will fail to effectively execute the key radical priorities that you need to actually work on. Now, if you are zooming in on those radical priorities and you are making sure that you are completely focused and not allowing yourself and your teams to become distracted by anything, doesn't matter what the competition is doing, doesn't matter what the market conditions are, let us make sure that whatever we've set out to create, we focus all our attention on creating that. To give you an example, let us look at IKEA, for example. Now they have X number of stores. They want to create four more in the next 1 year, for example. So while there are n number of market conditions that are shifting, changing, happening, they need to stay focused on their goal of getting, let's say, five more stores in India by the end of year 2026. If they stay in this space of zooming in on what needs to be done, they will not stay aware of the fact that the tariffs have changed, the market condition has changed, the pricing has changed, there is limitation on Chinese products, they have to look for alternate. So there is a multi faceted, complex scenario that they need to stay connected to. So, this ability to move between zooming in on radical priorities and then zooming out to stay connected with the realities of the world or the larger picture is one of the most important and strong traits that the leader needs to have. Uh, then coming to the second part of your question on deep work. Deep work is when you are completely zoomed in. Now, when you zoom in, and again, to give you an example, I worked closely with Unilever for a long time at a global level. So when their new CEO joined in about 2 years back, as a matter of fact, he's changed now as well. So a lot of change is happening there. When he came in, he said, there is a whole lot of good work happening in the organization, but we are very distracted and we are trying to do so many things at the same time that we are not realizing how many things are we are failing at, and therefore that is time lost and money lost as well. So I want the organization to have a sharp performance culture, and I want everyone to identify only three key priorities for the year and then say no to everything else. Do not get involved in anything else. Do not dissipate your energy on anything else. Just stay with those three priorities that you have. And as an organization, that will make us sharper. That will make us move from an idea to a plan to an executed product in a really sharp curve, and therefore lead to much better results and revenues. So, this is a strategy that the organization adopted, which was zoomed in. And when you have to do something like that, you need to do deep work. You have a short span of time in which you have to move from the idea to the executed product, and therefore you need to let go of all distractions. You have to be ruthless in prioritizing what is important and what is not. You have to be strategic in the choices and decisions you make, and therefore it becomes critical that people feel safe in the environment, and people feel comfortable in taking the risks and leading to the results. This is what deep work in the organizations is all about.
Great, awesome. Um, have you, talked to? I mean, I think so. You have been working in a very freelance manner also with a lot of organizations, right? So, has it ever happened that you have said no? I don't want to work with this team. Has it happened? And on the other side, who is your favorite corporate leader right now, where you also kind of learn and sort of improve your process?
So, firstly, in the human leadership space, no, I have not been freelancing. I have been connected to an organization for almost a decade, and a lot of my learning has happened there.
That
But
is
the
potential
environment,
project. Potential
potential
project.
project,
Right.
but the environment there was very psychologically safe. It allowed me to move into the Indian market, look for the clients, build those clients, do those sessions fairly independently in India, and therefore, in that space, we have had opportunities where we have said no to a client because we realize that while they are doing interventions in human leadership space as an organization or as a leadership team, they are not mentally fully aligned to the concept. They still have those archaic ways of working. They still have those limitations and taboos when it comes to recognizing emotions and treating people at a more human level, and recognizing the, let's say, the vagaries or the lapses or the weaknesses that are associated with being emotional, with being human. And therefore, we felt that even if we were to do an intervention there, even if we were to bring a program there, it would not have the requisite impact, because it is
Okay.
just a front that they are creating for,
Effect.
yeah, the well-being program, because it is the mental well-being month, for example,
It gives
you know.
it gives good brownie points in front of, say, investors, and right because of that
uh,
as well. Yeah.
yes, it's just
Okay.
basically a branding exercise. So then
Okay.
we step back. But to talk about potential project as an organization, there we had a very clear understanding of, right work, what is the right thing to do. And therefore there was clear decisions that were made around the fact that, as an organization, a potential project would not work with the tobacco industry or the liquor industry,
Awesome.
or, at a time with, so there were clear
I need
understandings.
to clap for
Yes,
that. I need to clap for that
exactly.
actually,
And
because yeah.
yeah, and there was dissent to that sometimes, because we felt, so one point of view was to make a statement about what is
Hmm.
the not the right thing to have,
Hmm.
globally speaking, from climate
Hmm.
perspective and so on.
Hmm.
But on the other side, the argument was, but our job is to change people, it is
Okay.
to wake them up to what
Oh
they
yes,
could be.
yes. Yeah.
And if we choose not to step in and do that,
Hmm.
then we are
Hmm.
taking away the opportunity from all of those team members who could really be questioning their own organization and
Hmm.
saying, but why
Hmm.
why can
Hmm.
we not be
Hmm.
more responsible or
Hmm.
whatever. So it's a two-edged sword there. But having said that, at least being conscious enough to choose
Yeah.
what is going to be sensible and what is not.
Yeah. So yeah, that
And
happens. I feel that happened with us also, because we get approached with all sorts of books.
mm,
We get
yeah,
so much of content, like it could be religious, it could be a
yeah,
case that is happening right now. So there was this very famous person who had a case against her, and she was kind of writing the book through her daughter. So it was like ghost writing to effect the case. So we had to say
yeah,
no. And there was one case where there was a person who was writing a book, and the person was accused of Me Too. And I was like, okay, I know nothing can be proved, because these things are very, sort of, there's no live, proof of what has been happening. But this is circumstantial, or, people showing up and saying that this happened or whatever, witnesses. But sometimes one has to say no and give up on a lot of money sometimes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So these are
You were saying.
strategic choices.
Yeah.
These are strategic choices that we need to make as leaders for our business, for the larger good, sometimes beyond our business as well. So I was actually just answering your last question on who is the leader that I admire the most. And for me, that is Satya Nadella. And one of the key reasons for that is, uh, very few leaders have this ability. Just the fact that you have risen from your individual contributor role to a leadership role, to a senior leader role, and then to the top leadership and become the CEO of a global organization like that. And we all know that he comes from humble background in India otherwise. So to retain the core sense of gratitude, or the core sense of humanness, even though they have reached that level in their career or in their professional path, is deeply endearing. And some of the stories that we have on Satya Nadella show that he not just um, not just appreciates, but also makes programs and processes that will encourage and reward people who show dissent in the organization.
Oh, wow. Can you give us
He says,
an example? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he says that every day it is important for me to have one conversation in the organization with someone who is in dissent with me, who does not agree with me on something that the organization is doing or the way it is doing it. So he says those are the most critical conversations that I have. And I give my full presence, time, and attention to these conversations, because these are the conversations which will move us from where we are to where we want to be. If we all have conversations where we align and agree with each other, we will only go up to here. But when we start to listen to dissent and encourage it and work with it, we will go someplace that we have never even thought we could be.
This
So,
is
this to me is
incredible.
true. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think some political leaders also should learn from this, because dissent is being like crushed right now across the globe. It's a trend. It's a trend. Everybody is learning from each other, and the general consensus is just crush it before it kind of raises its head. So it's this is incredible actually. Okay, my
And it
final question. Yeah, you were
Sorry,
saying.
and it's for the leaders. We create, in our organizations, we create support groups, people who will support us when we come up with an idea, when we
Absolutely.
propose something.
Absolutely.
How about having a dissent group, a group
Wow.
of people that will always disagree with you because they have multiple perspectives? Imagine
Wow.
how, as a leader, I would grow if I was to talk to and listen to and absorb the multiple perspectives that I could get from my team.
Yeah, amazing. I
Good for
the first time the first time I felt the need for it was when I got my first negative comment on a podcast. It was a 10-liner, I think so,
mm,
uh, criticizing my process, and
mm,
that is the single paragraph that I always look at. Whenever I am not doing well on a podcast or I haven't done well, I try to go back to it because it criticized me viciously. And
mm,
I was like, okay, this person has taken the time out to watch the entire episode. Point by
mm,
point, they are telling me how to do better. This is
mm.
super valuable. But this happened after a week of, me just wanting to comment there that you know, I wanted to abuse the guy or girl.
Yeah,
I don't remember. But that was the first time I was like, okay, this is also possible. I can take criticism. That was
yeah.
the first thing. Incredible.
No,
This
but
is yeah.
having said that, I would like to add a point here. Making a critical remark because you feel somebody could do better or different or more
Mhm.
impactful
Absolutely,
is
yeah.
fantastic, because it has the right intention, because it is
Mhm.
leading to growth or
Mhm.
betterment.
Mhm. Mhm.
But equally important is the way it is done,
Yeah.
because that's another part of the intention. Is your intention to improve the process, or is
Mhm.
your intention to make the other person feel small because
Yes.
you feel you are the superior one and you know more? And in leadership, this is a very important lesson to learn. You
Yes.
could improve the other person without trying to make them small.
Mhm. Lot to learn, guys. This book is incredible. Just keep it by your side if you are, especially if you are planning to come in a leadership role at any point, and everybody wishes to, who doesn't want to, because this is the most cherished and coveted kind of thing that one wants to do. I have been enjoying it. At the same time, I've been hating it, but everybody wants it. uh, uh, and my final question, before we end, um, have you incorporated learnings from books in your programs, in your whatever happens in these processes that you kind of place in the organizations? And any recommendations, because this is the Book Nerds podcast. We love to do this section, and perhaps a couple.
Sure. Yeah, so I read a lot, of course, and imbibe a lot of those learnings in the way I lead, or I have been leading in different organizations that I was a part of. And I became a senior leader, a company head, and a board member at a very young age of 28, 29. And so I had a lot of opportunity to work with different cohorts and different environments over these years. But having said that, it has been a journey, and a lot of what is there in the book is what I have learned when I have worked with leaders in different organizations. And Potential Project gave me this amazing opportunity to work globally, virtually and in person, with many different cohorts and large organizations like Accenture, Cisco, Unilever, Kimberly Clark, just to name a few, Capgemini, Bosch, Jetpact, and so on. And each organization is different, each environment is different, each cohort is different. Some are very senior, some are mid level, and so the opportunity to learn the different challenges that they have, the different outcomes that they face, the different environments that impact them in a certain way, so that has been the biggest learning. But in addition to the books, and the books of course are important because that's where your mind opens up to absorb and accept these different perspectives that you can pick up all around yourself. So yes, reading is the most important part, and I'm very diverse in my reading. While leadership of course is my professional direction, but I do read a whole lot on ancient history, Indian scriptures, fiction, whatnot. One of my favorite books is the source field investigations. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
don't remember author's name, but you could just Google source field
Yeah.
investigations. A lovely book which just opens up your mind about everything the world is or our life is.
Okay.
But more from a leadership point of view and human leadership point of view, one of my favorite books is Love 2.0.
Okay.
So this is a book that's been written by Barbara Fredrickson, and this is
It's
a
a book
lovely book.
also. The example
I'm
is in
sorry.
the book also. The
Yes,
example
it
is
is
in
in.
the book also. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
You will find a fair number of examples from the various
हाँ
books that
काफी
I
है
have.
मतलब if you are a reader ना if you are a reader's reader I call them but you'll find lot of examples in the book so yeah.
Yes. So this is a book I would highly recommend. And the other book that I earlier mentioned was Rasmus Hugard's Mind of the Leader, that I
Okay.
think is really comprehensive in the way it captures what are some of the key things that the leaders need to understand about their own mind.
Hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much, Marut, for being on the podcast. This book, guys, pick it up. Like I said, you won't regret it. This is coming from me, and you trust me. I know that. So now, after doing this for 4 5 years, our audience, our readers know that when we truly recommend it, it means something. And incredible book, and especially if you want to look at contemporary leadership, want to tweak the things that you are maybe doing wrong in the organization, please read it. I am going to change a few things, especially the dissent group that you talked about. That is happening. I need a couple of people who just criticize me once a week a bit so that I can perhaps look at it and not be in my own high tower all the time, although that tower is still building, but but thank you so much for doing this, and looking forward to so much from more from you guys. Do drop a review on Amazon, it helps the author a lot, and you can follow Marut on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll put the links in the comments, and of course in the video as well. Do comment on the YouTube video as well. It'll launch on Booknerds YouTube channel, and we'll be sharing short videos on Instagram and elsewhere. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to this, and happy reading. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rohan.